Hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
I really wanted to interview people that are living their purpose and their dharma and kind of shine the light and then hopefully inspire people to find a healing modality or find a modality to empower them and then go on their own dharma journey. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The Dharma journey and choosing the lifestyle and the life with purpose and a life that you believe in. Giving in to the establishment and going into debt, and you have to get a job doing whatever to pay your bills and all that is just a kind of a paid slavery,
Mm.
and it's not a healthy way of living at all. So finding your purpose and looking at civilization where we're at now and where do we need to go from here as the collective. Hang on a sec. Oh, I need your permission to record this. How do I get your permission? Please, please.
I will make you a co-host, but I'll also send you the recording as well. I can send you the recording too, but I've made you a co-host so you can record it as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can send it then. That's fine.
Okay,
Uh,
cool.
the
And
idea is to get our conversations and the information out to as many people as possible at this time when there are so many people who are in a kind of a suffering state and living in fear because of the conditions around the world globally. So
so I'm what I'll do is I'll send you all the links and then I'll send you the link to the the podcast on Spotify and the app as well. So then you can share it through your social
yeah,
media or whatever. I saw
Spotify never lets me in, but
I saw McKinley. I'm friends of hers, and she left Bali and she got stuck in Thailand with you. It's quite funny that she
yeah,
got stuck there.
yeah,
Oh.
we all got stuck here actually. I,
I
I
re-
was supposed to leave too, but
I
never
remember
happened.
off the record. I remember when I did the acid trip in the sound dome, and I never thought I was coming out of it. We definitely should never have asked for more. So I respect the medicine. I don't think I haven't taken any acid since.
Yeah, okay. Understand the limits and your own limits, and
Yeah, it
yeah.
definitely was eye opening. All right, I'll start soon. How do you want me to introduce you, David?
I don't know. How do you want to introduce me? I'm here teaching yoga for a long time. Got a center in Thailand and one that's waiting in the Philippines because I can't get back there. But
Okay,
yeah, this is my life.
okay. I'll take a couple of breaths and then I'll introduce you and we'll start. Welcome on the Dharma Journey podcast, David Goulet.
Hello.
David is a wizard of yoga, and I met him a couple of years ago in Bali on a chakra yoga training with my teacher Octavio, which is actually David's first teacher. And yeah, and really it kind of opened me up to the real potential of yoga and of the healing part of it that I never really knew about. And then fortunate enough I got to come and see David and in Thailand, and on his one of his trainings he runs yoga teacher trainings, healing trainings as well. People come over and really go on that healing journey with David, and we're going to get a little bit more into that as we go along. But I think you've got 5 decades of experience in the kind of the yogic quantum field of all of this incredible science.
Yeah, quantum field is a good term. 'Cause, I followed the science from before I got into yoga, days of relativity. When I discovered the chakras and the Indian view that actually everything is made of energy, it's not as solid, as real as it seems to be to our senses. So making this connection, realizing the potential that quantum physics talks about is everything is actually exists as waves of possibility, which are then influenced by our expectations, our belief system, and our consciousness as the observer. So it's a very empowering concept, and yoga has always taught this as a mind over matter kind of term that has been associated with yoga for a long time. And now science is kind of verifying all of that. And I took advantage of it again. The man I studied with, Dr. Swami Gitananda, who was also a medical professional, talked a lot about this whole idea of our health and how disempowering the existing medical system is. And he gave up after 38 years of being in the business of medicine and the practice of medicine and went back to India to teach yoga. And it was not that long before I got there, so he was still gung ho and starting up his whole school, his ashram there, and taught us all of these things. I didn't know much about it. I didn't get into yoga for medical reasons or because I had a disease or a problem. I was into it for the higher states of consciousness. But then he taught the whole system of mind body medicine, the psychological aspects, and everything about body chemistry, and many stories about what's happening in the actual medical association, which I can see more clearly now of how that has progressed into kind of a world domination thing. Western medicine has become more global, and Ayurveda is almost left behind, even in India. Everyone's going for Western medicine, and it's the wrong direction. We should all be looking more into the yoga, the Ayurvedic, the Chinese medicine, acupuncture. These are more real. They deal with energy and realities. And this is a interesting thing about Western medicine. It still hasn't looked at energy. It looks at everything as molecular configurations, and we can make better molecules with our pharmaceutical knowledge. And um, the reality is, we have a nervous system that runs on energy, and energy is what's connecting the mind, the body. Energy is what makes the glands and organs function. It's what triggers the endocrine system to produce better hormones or whatever. And they're not even looking at that at all. It's just kind of a missing link in medical science. In other areas of science, it's quite valid and real. Neurobiology and whatnot is looking at how everything works at the energetic level, but standard medicine is just stuck on a different concept of we can replace everything with other chemicals that we make and sell to you.
Mm. Do you believe that
So
right now there's a little bit of a war on consciousness with everything going on in the world with the censorship and there's obviously a big change in the world with the pandemic. What is your opinion on this coronavirus?
I'm very aware that our autoimmune system is 100% capable of creating antibodies and killer T cells and whatever it takes to take care of viruses, bacteria, germs. And I'm very aware that if you are in a state of stress, fear, and worry, that your immune system is not going to be very functional. So by spreading the fear, you said war on consciousness. Yeah. If you are conscious of these things, then you have no fear of these viruses. Where the world is full of viruses. In medicine, Western medicine, they know now that you may have 50 trillion cells in your body, but for every cell to function, it needs the cooperation of hundreds of bacteria. And viruses are the way that bacteria and body parts are communicating information. So this is an ongoing process. We live in a world that's made of bacteria and viruses. And so to be afraid of them is kind of ridiculous. But again, having studied with Swami Gitananda, who would often state 97% of all disease is psychosomatic. It begins in your mind, and then your body creates the scenario to manifest what your mind believes in. And if you're believing in disease, that's what you're going to manifest. If you believe in health, that's what you're going to manifest. And if you look at belief, belief systems, in all the traditional philosophies, in all the religions, belief is a fundamental thing. You have to believe in the Lord if you're religious. And in Buddha's statements, he said that everything comes from the mind. Mind is the creator of all states, of all things. Jesus said, if you believe that mountain's going to move and you really believe it, it will.
Mm.
So they're all saying that belief is really an important thing. So now we have a world pandemic of getting everyone to believe in how dangerous this virus is. So that's what we are manifesting as a collective consciousness. And the fear element is one of the ways of you open the door for this negativity to happen to you.
And
And and I was going to say Western medicine knows this stuff because they have studied the placebo and the nocebo,
yeah.
which is study of how the mind is interacting with your chemistry and influencing whether something works or not. So you were going to say,
No, I think what you're saying is really valid. Obviously, since studying Ayurveda myself and just a little bit of, talking to different people and even doctors and realizing how, there's not that much knowledge even on nutrition, on, I know you study a lot on oxygenating the cells at Pyramid Yoga, that part of your healing program is all about the breath. And I remember
yeah,
learning the three-part breath, and I remember you saying, cancer cannot survive in an oxygenated environment. Maybe you can
right.
maybe you can speak to a little bit about these, the fear of like the autoimmune disorders and people that come and see you at the pyramid. What kind of healing modalities are you using to help people come into remission?
Well, the first thing is the breath because I have been breathing myself deeply for 50 years. And presently, I do a minimum of 4 hours of complete deep breathing per day. And this is part of what retards the aging process. And that was one of the studies done by the Medical Association in the 80s. They studied old folks and discovered that as you age, your breathing becomes less and less, more and more shallow. You're using less and less of your lungs. And they attributed this to being part of the aging process. And at the end of the study, they studied a lot of old folks. I think the term was like 100,000 people across North America in this study group.
Wow.
At the end of the study, they clearly stated that through all of this study, they could not determine which came first, chicken or the egg.
Mm.
Was it the lack of breathing that caused the aging, or was it the aging that caused the lack of breathing? But either way, they were entangled. So I took that seriously. So, okay, this is a very significant finding. So then, if we add more deep breathing, the aging process will not happen as fast. And this is their reality. And again, 50 years of practicing yoga and breathing, and I still feel the same as I did when I started in my 20s. So, okay, where's this aging process? When am I going to start having degenerative diseases, etc.?
Mm.
So, in my study and research, I mean, the first when I first started commercially teaching yoga in the 70s, it was mostly women who were coming, and one of them came up after the class one day because I stayed in the class. 97% of all disease is psychosomatic. You don't have to have be sick. Yoga is a way of becoming healthy. So this woman came up to me after the class and said, "Well, my doctor just said I have breast cancer. They have to remove the breast, and all the lymph nodes in my under my arm need to be removed, and they want me in the hospital on Wednesday. What should I do?" So I said, "Skip it." And I said, "Come over to my place, and we'll put you through a breathing technique, which was the Ekadasi, which you may or may not remember.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
11 days of breathing. It's a breathing technique where you're using your full lung capacity and you're breathing longer every day. It gets a little bit longer. So more and more oxygen. And then uh, during this breathing technique, there's a lot of psychological, emotional stuff that comes up. And there's ways of releasing that by moving and doing postures, movements, and even screaming if you need to, or crying and laughing, emotional release essentially, but it brings up the emotion. So during that time, she had a lot of emotional stuff come up and all about her relationship, da, 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 her husband, etc. But she did the technique for 2 weeks, and then she went to the next. This was in Canada, so she went to the next province. I said, "Don't go back to the same doctor. Go for a checkup, but go somewhere else." So she went to another part of Canada, next province. She wanted to go traveling anyway, and she went, and there was no cancer whatsoever after a 2 week program. So this inspired me. I said, "Well, that was easy. Just get them to breathe and cry a little bit and tell their life story." And so that was the beginning of it. And then I carried on years later. I didn't do a whole lot of it. I didn't even do a lot of yoga teaching because I was disillusioned by yoga teaching in America becoming too much of an exercise program, and I got into it for higher levels of consciousness, or what you might call a spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to teach that because people were just coming for exercise. I was okay. This is not really what I want to do. So I didn't teach much for years, and then later I got into it um, by doing a teacher's training, which was similar to what I did in Canada, which is what I do now. I teach the whole scope of yoga to people who really want to know the whole thing. But in the interim, my mother was in the hospital at age 76, dying of cancer. I didn't live near her, but my brother called and said, "Hey, guess what? Mom's in the hospital and she's kind of dying. She had breast cancer for a while. We knew that. And then the cancer had moved into her lungs, so now it was lung cancer. And they gave her basically a week to live because her lungs were filling up with fluid. The cancer cells were kind of oozing out this fluid into her lungs, and then she couldn't breathe because her lungs were full of this yucky fluid.
Mm.
The hospital's solution was to stick a huge syringe in her back into the lungs and suck out the fluid, extending her life for another day, 1 day at a time. But they said, we can do this for 7 days, but then she'll probably croak. So I just said, I went to visit her. I said, you don't have to go this route. If you still want to live, I can just show you how to get rid of this and revive your life. She was lying in her hospital bed, it was a deathbed essentially. She couldn't walk anymore, do anything. Anyway, I took her home and taught her how to breathe. And I showed her breathing retentions with the simple idea that if you put air pressure in your lungs, you're going to push the fluid out. So I stayed with her for a week and we did all these breathing techniques. And every day she could breathe a little deeper, deeper, deeper until a week later she was up out of bed making me breakfast in the morning and going for walks out in the Canadian winter. And then she went for x-rays 30 days after I took her out of the hospital. And they said, "Well, there's no more cancer in your lungs. There's just a few little spots of where the cancer had been, but there's no cancer left. So whatever you did, do it again. Keep doing it." They didn't want to know what it was. So that was my first um, deeper experience of taking someone with terminal cancer, given a 7 day life sentence, and completely reverting that. And everybody just looked at her and said, "Oh my God, it's a miracle," and she just bounced right back to life. So that was only my second attempt with cancer. And then after that I realized, oh, this is valid. So I kind of made this cancer remission program, which
Mm.
I did there and I do here. But I need to add to that that some people have come here and done this program and the cancer goes away and then they go back to their job,
Mm.
to their lifestyle in which the cancer was created. And I tell them if you go back to what you were doing, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
I'm very clear about that, that you need to make lifestyle changes. You need to look after your health. You can't be in a high stress situation. And I had one of the guys came from Hong Kong. He was a businessman between Hong Kong and New York. He was always flying back and forth, always on his phone because he had companies in both countries. I said, you're in a really high stress lifestyle, and he developed this terminal pancreatic stomach cancer. And when they opened him up, they said, "Oh God, it's all over the place. There's nothing we can do." So he came here. He did 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a 3 week program. He went back to Hong Kong. Some of the doctors were friends of his that opened him up and looked around, and they were putting things down into his stomach to take samples of things, and they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find any cancer, but they kept digging around his stomach, taking chunks of stomach to see if it was cancerous until he was bleeding all over internally. And he finally said, "Okay, I quit. Never mind. I'm okay. I'm fine." But then he went back to work. So we had this miraculous study that was confirmed by the medical association because they no more cancer from high levels of cancer everywhere to no cancer, and they were blown away. They couldn't believe it. That's why they kept digging into his stomach. But
Spontaneous
he went back.
remission.
Yeah, spontaneous remission. They don't care how it just happens sometimes. We don't know about it. It's not our job, so we don't do that. Anyway, he went back to work and died a year later.
And has anyone, since you've obviously been healing people from all kinds of, well, not just you healing, they've healed themselves. Obviously, you've given them the tools and the techniques. But um,
Yeah.
has anyone ever come to interview you, like any pharmaceutical company or anyone, try to find out your special skill set? Because I can imagine,
Uh,
obviously, the cure for cancer is has been going on for a long time now. So I'm surprised no one would want to come come to the source. And obviously there's different ways we can heal. But have you had to keep quite quiet on this healing front, or?
well, no, I mean, I left Canada and came to Thailand because this is more of a free country where you can do what you want,
Yeah.
and there's no authorities telling you you can't do this or you can't do that. I even in the days I quit the American Yoga Alliance
Mm,
for various reasons because they don't really teach yoga; they teach fitness, and they're controlling everyone and teaching everyone that yoga is just a fitness program. And I was forbidden by them to use the word healing or therapy on my website, or they would cancel me, ostracize me, or whatever.
mm,
So because of that, anyway, this oppression of from what comes back goes back up to the American Medical Association. They have the authority to use healing and to say heal and therapy and all these things, but everyone else who steps on their toes can be eliminated or ostracized or ridiculed or whatever.
yeah.
And I really have seen that completely. So the pharmacist, as I said, the medical doctors, in the case of my mother, who was a miraculous cure, the doctor came over to visit us in her apartment before I left and said, "Well, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. You're fine." But he wasn't at all curious. No question of what did you do and how did you accomplish this spontaneous remission.
Mm,
They don't want to know because they don't want to really find the cure for cancer because cancer is multi-billion-dollar industry.
yeah.
Cancer research is billion-dollar industry. So people keep putting money into the research and it creates jobs and all these things, but if you suddenly found a cure, you would create an economic disaster. So you can't.
I remember.
So
Um, just to interrupt you, saying that, my growing up, my mum's always been about holistic health and using, food as medicine and
Yeah,
homeopathy. And I remember when we chose to come on your healing retreat, I was in a bit of conflict in my relationship because my ex partner was in the he was in the Western medicine side. He was a physiotherapist. His parents were pharmaceutical. Uh, they were in the pharmaceutical industry. They had their own pharmacy. I was stuck in Bali. I couldn't come back to Australia. And I told him, I don't know what it was. It was my own inner kind of intuition. I knew I had to come to Thailand and come on the healing retreat and experience it. And that was really my entry into this field, and obviously, working with Octavio and you and other people. And after that we shortly broke up, but I when you're going up against people's beliefs, it's very hard to, you can't really change people's beliefs. It's really, they have such a fixed mindset, and obviously if they've studied 7 years of medicine, they're going to believe, that
yeah, yeah,
their way is the highway. um
yeah. That's their whole mindset. They have to believe it.
yeah. Maybe you can
They're,
share a little
they're
bit.
even taught not to question it. But go ahead.
Maybe you can share a little bit about yeah, the chakras, like, how they relate to the endocrine system. And because people often, they hear the word, and because it's a bit of a strange word, they're not really, they kind of dismiss it. But maybe you can explain it so it makes sense on a physiological level for people that have never experienced kind of chakra yoga. And I'm definitely going to put a link to your Egyptian flow, and they can try it out for themselves after
Yeah,
they listened.
yeah. Well, like I said in the beginning, when I first discovered the concept of chakras, and I was studying in India, I was coming from more of a scientific, very intellectual scientific background from civil engineering, but my interest was more in the mind and in science. And in those days, quantum physics hasn't really been invented. It was called relativity theory, and I was fascinated by that. But it was basically saying that matter and energy are similar. They're two different sides of the same coin. They're the same thing seen from different perspectives. So saying that everything is actually energy, and then coming into the field of yoga, where they talk about actually we are made of these whirlpools of energy that then manifest into atoms and molecules that make our body, and then these have connections to different senses. Each frequency of the energy is connected to, the first link is directly to the endocrine glands, and then to other body organs and functions. But the most direct connection was to the endocrine glands, which is where we take the energy of these chakras and put it into molecular formations that are called hormones. And now, with modern science and quantum physics, they're seeing and realizing that the molecules are made of atoms and they're all vibrating. And every molecule is made of a certain configuration of atoms with their own frequencies. So it makes like a song. You have a whole bunch of different atoms vibrating at different speeds. So that every molecule has its like signature song. And this is the new reality that science in the West is discovering. But it's bringing everything back down to what is the essence of everything is energy. So this concept of the chakras is not foreign to modern science. It may be, again, in if you look at uh, America's Yoga Alliance, they don't teach anything about chakras. They teach about body and bones and muscles. They don't even go into physiology because that's the medical department. But the reality of yoga is that there's consciousness, there's mind, there's energy, and there's matter. And then at the energy level, it's these chakras. And the neurology connected to it is that there's a nerve group, the solar plexus, the third chakra connected to the solar plexus. It empowers digestion, the pancreas, the stomach, the liver. And then the fourth chakra, you have a nerve group. There's the pulmonary plexus and the cardiac plexus. These are big nerve groups that work on energy. Okay. And energy is, the chakra is the energy that is going through the nervous system to empower your lungs, your heart, and your immune system. This is the fourth chakra. So if the energy is there, then the gadget is going to work. Just like you turn on the light, if there's power, the power's on, the light is going to go on. You just need to connect it. And yoga has a way of empowering the chakras, bringing the energy level up, directing it to the gland or the organ, and picking up the condition of that organ, boosting it so that it's functioning better. This is the way yoga works. And in a sense, I consider this superior even to the Ayurvedic methods of looking at the physical side of the food, of whatnot,
Mm.
because energy is what food is made of. Energy is what your body is made of. So if you're dealing with the energy directly, you're closer to the source of controlling everything. And this is the reality of the chakras. So
And
by doing that, empowering the chakras, and then of course you've got breathing techniques that bring the oxygen and the prana to different areas, to different endocrine glands, let's say. And then you've got movements and postures and positions that are going to bring more circulation to this area. While you're breathing deep and you're bringing more oxygen, more circulation, and more energy, so you can rejuvenate the gland. And I've worked a lot with this over the years. People with thyroid problems, people who are diabetic, and seen everything can be rolled back if the person is willing to do the practice.
yeah. And also, I know a big part of the healing modality that you use is obviously we use kind of mantra, but also vibration frequency. And I know uh, when I was in Thailand, my friend and I went on the bed, and you put the headphones on, and basically you use a specific hertz or frequency to help dissolve blockages in the body. Maybe you can speak a little bit about the frequency and how that works.
Yeah, going back again to the scientific aspect of reality, I said atoms and molecules, they're all vibrating at very high speeds. This is undeniable, this is measurable, and science knows this very well. So if the building blocks of our being, atoms, molecules, DNA, cells, if everything is in a state of vibration and you can tune up that vibration so that it's vibrating at the right frequency in a harmonic way with its environment, then you're creating a state of health. And one of the things I learned about the chakra system is that each one has a specific frequency. So if you have a thyroid problem, you choose the frequency of the energy that is going through the nerves connecting to the thyroid gland.
Mm.
And in that way, you are literally tuning up, just like you tune up a musical instrument.
Yeah,
We are everywhere in a state of vibration. If the vibration is harmonious, and if it's harmonious, it's healthy.
yeah,
Now, if your guitar goes out of tune, the music doesn't sound as good. And what happens when you have a group of cells or molecules within a cell that go out of tune, you've got this disharmony, and it creates the feeling of unhealthiness. It creates deterioration. This is bad health. So if you can adjust the frequency, realign things, and bring them back into harmony, you virtually have eliminated the disease. This is the reality of working with frequencies, and why I have the sound bed. And actually, it's a sound chair now. It's a lazy boy chair that's more comfortable, and you lay back, and the whole thing vibrates. And Luke, he
yeah,
lives in
yeah.
Bali.
You went to Egypt together. I was quite jealous.
Yeah,
I wish I could come with you. Maybe on your next trip when you're about 100.
yeah. Well, whenever they open up, we'll go back there because I got students over there too, and I used to do workshops there every week, every month, every year. I mean,
Oh wow.
so I look forward to going back. But they used sound considerably also. They understood, and the Egyptian, what they call the Egyptian religion, had at its foundation that if you have the right sound formula, you can do anything. So they really understood about vibration. And then the feeling of being immersed in vibration is amazing. It's, well, you had some experience with it. It's very pleasurable, emotional. It's a really nice, pleasant feeling, and it's healing you
Mm.
by adjusting your frequencies. It's very different from like taking chemotherapy, which tries to kill you.
I remember when we first did your Egyptian flow, and I don't think I'd been practicing Tantra Katha yoga for a couple of months, maybe 6 months, with Octavio, but we never really dived deep into the chakra aspect. And I remember just laying down after the Egyptian flow, my whole body was just shaking and vibrating, and it felt. I thought I was like, oh, is this a Kundalini awakening? And wasn't sure what it was at that point. Maybe you can speak a little bit about. I mean, obviously, the purpose of these practices is to self heal, self empower, and really to self realize and connect into our unlimited potential. What's your thoughts on the path of the path of plant-based medicine as in combination with the path of yoga and also liberation and using both modalities as healing modalities.
Yeah, I'm using both with consciousness. But the purpose of yoga isn't to heal, that's just one of the side effects.
Mm,
The purpose is evolution. It's realizing that your consciousness is an eternal part of you, and that's the essence of you. It's the eternal part. It's not born, it doesn't die, it comes into the body and then gets stuck in the body, and we take our body very seriously and disconnect it from the source from which it comes, and this creates a lot of problems and disharmony. So the idea of liberation in yoga, you said self-realization,
mm,
realizing that the self is this consciousness that is detachable from the body. And when you realize that, well, the first thing is that you overcome the fear of death because you realize there is no death. My consciousness simply moves on to another dimension of reality, another frequency in the electromagnetic ocean. However you want to describe it, the experience of leaving your body and going into these higher states is amazing, amazing meditational experience, and that's the purpose of yoga. But to get there with yoga, you go back into the body and you influence all of these hormonal outputs, like with Oli mudras, etc., techniques that balance your body and get everything working in your body chemistry, in your brain chemistry. Everything is functioning at this peak performance, and it's liberating a lot of energy for you to do other things, to be creative, and to do these other practices, and to propel your consciousness up into this higher realm. And this is why I got into yoga in the first place.
and would you say the awakening process is more like Octavio says, you can have a painful awakening, like a flower pot smashing, and and that's because you're not fully in alignment or balanced, and or you can have the kind of the awakening like a flower blooming, which is a bit more slower but more profound, because you really get to integrate the parts of you that, the shadow and the light that a lot of people are not fully aware to, um, if they haven't done those deeper Swadhyahara reflection practices and kind of understanding themselves on a bit more of a deeper level.
Yeah, the whole swadhyaya self-study concept, studying and understanding yourself, and the practices of yoga, the practices of chakra yoga, are working more directly with the energy fields, with the chakra energies, and gradually increasing the amount of energy in each of the chakras. And each one is then going to rejuvenate the gland or the organ connected, improve your health along the way. But again, those are side effects. The idea is to increase the energy so that your consciousness keeps elevating and keeps expanding. So you become more and more aware of everything, and you realize that your consciousness can become aware of the whole universe, going way beyond our limitations of our physical body. So this gradual increase, it's like you have a light and a dimmer switch, and
Mm,
you're just gradually making the light brighter, rather than just plugging it in at full force and blowing up the light bulb or dropping that flower pot, as you mentioned. The awakening should be slow, gradual, and understood as you're going along.
mm,
You don't just crank the voltage way up and say, okay, I have a Kundalini awakening. But you wake up in the morning and you do a little deep breathing and you start stretching and you start moving. You're not just dumped out of your bed onto the floor.
mm. I would love to maybe speak just before as well a little bit about how, because a lot of since I've been working with people and clients, and obviously a lot of people listening are probably familiar with you and the practice and Octavio, a bit about Yantra Yoga for maybe people that are not so aware of Yantra Yoga. And I've been using it since meeting you and really using it for empowerment, for creativity, and for really birthing my, dharmic projects into the world, like the Dharma journey. And I really see how much power is in it. But I struggle to sometimes fully express and explain it, to make sense. And I know obviously you're a king in this realm, so maybe you can share a little bit about the frequencies, the nine frequencies, and how they relate to the chakras, and the your dharma marga and the secondary influences that you're living with throughout your life.
Yeah, I mean, this is another area where science and scientific research, in its realization that actually everything is made of energy, this understanding of energy and forces and how energy goes in waves, in cycles, and there's different types of energy, different frequencies. If you're into, you go from astronomy to astrology, and you're looking at energy coming from a certain area of the universe is going to have characteristics and qualities. From another area, it's going to be different characteristics. So in the chakra system, you look at the huge energy field. I call it an electromagnetic ocean. That's the reality of the universe. We're swimming in this ocean that's invisible to us, to our senses, that we can tap into it. Anyway, this, you know how you take white light, sunlight, and you pass it through a prism and it turns into the rainbow on the other side.
Mm,
So the white light is containing the rainbow, and the whole of the electromagnetic ocean is the energy field, but it has these different frequencies inside of it, which come out as different colors, different feelings, different sounds, different characteristics and qualities. And Yantra Yoga is a mathematical system that allows you to calculate which frequency, which energy vortex you are actually born into, which one was there at the day you are born, which is the one that then is initiated. Your consciousness is kind of stuck, not necessarily stuck, but it's in this field.
mm,
It directs your consciousness either to be materialistic, to be social, to be empowered, to be intellectual, or to be very spiritual, depending on the frequency. And these frequencies are part of the whole ocean. Just like now we have the internet. You can tune into a website. You can change the coding and go to a different website. So they all have different realities, different information, or whatever. So the chakra energies are part of the universal reality, and you're either tuned in to this one or that one or the other.
mm,
And Yantra Yoga is a kind of ancient and elaborate mathematical system that allows you to calculate which one is your dominant inherited power, inherent from the universe. And it's not dictating what that's going to turn out like. It's telling you this is the kind of energy you have, and this is the best way to use this energy. Like I said, the difference between being very individual and taking care of your body and being materialistic or being very social, these are different energies.
Mm.
And the second chakra will be very social. The first chakra is very individual, materialistic, earthly minded.
Yeah.
So the energy of the chakra directs your consciousness into a certain area of human behavior
Mm.
by its nature. If you understand that, and then you can choose something that is in harmony with your potential,
Yeah.
essentially. And then you go into the calendar system and the time cycles of this year. I have the power of the fifth chakra of communication, of the voice,
I'm in
of
that one.
yeah.
I love
There
it.
you go. So this is a way of yantra yoga is a way of understanding and the ability to calculate all these things. And I've watched this for 50 years, and I've worked with it with many people,
Mm.
and it's accurate.
Mm.
Gives you a really clear idea of what possibilities you have for your life, for periods of your life, and then for every year, every month. It's a continual changing. Energy isn't fixed; it's always moving and changing. So there's this changing of chakra fields from one time to another. One lifetime you have one, but in that lifetime you're going through phases of having a secondary chakra. And if you have the ability to calculate this, you're in a better position to make good choices, knowing what the potential is, knowing when it's time to plant the seed and when it's time to harvest and when it's time to pick up your mobile and call somebody because it's a two cycle and whatever. And then again, like I say, watching this for many years, you start to realize, oh, there's a good deal of accuracy in this, and it's good knowledge to have. So again, I learned this from Swami Gitananda, and then verified it by years of observation and calculating. All the students I have, I always calculate, where you're at, what's your potential, what's your birth chakra,
Yeah.
etc.
Can I
Hey,
ask?
if people want to learn this, I mean, I teach it here, but there's also we have the online Yantra Yoga course, so people can
Yeah.
study this and learn more about it. Because I think it's a valid thing people should know about. Like people should know about yoga. We should have been taught this in school.
Mm.
How to be healthy from grade school. Why do we breathe deep and how to breathe more effectively and more deeply and what does it do to your chemistry? I mean, these are not complicated. It's not rocket science or brain surgery. It's real simple body functions, and we can take advantage of it and start practicing these things early in life. And like it was early enough for me. I was 22, 21 when I got into yoga, 22 when I got to India, and I've applied it for the rest of my life. And the benefits are whoa, peak performance, good state of consciousness, optimal health all the time,
Mm.
no fear of viruses or disease. I have an immune system that just blows them all away. So
And
having this in your hands is valid. Everybody should have this. It should be a global health promotion system. I won't say healthcare because healthcare is mostly disease control or something.
mm.
Not about your health. It's about your disease and how to vaccinate. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. You
Yeah,
can cut that
yeah,
out.
we're gonna I'm gonna call the podcast the censorship on consciousness.
Yeah,
No, it's been
there's
great, and
a lot of that.
I hope people can connect with you more about the yantra yoga, the chakra yoga, the healing, because it's just it blows my mind. And every time in the short space of my last couple of years, I've seen my own growth and my own potential, and then being able to be of service to other people and help them uncover theirs. It's kind of like that ripple effect, and it's just such powerful work, and we need more teachers in the world that actually are teaching from the tradition, instead of the kind of more the physical thing based that's not really helping us evolve, physically or mentally or emotionally. So
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even keep us healthy when you don't have the breathing, the pranayama. The pranayama and the asanas go hand in hand, and I've seen so much Western yoga that doesn't bother. Once in a while, the teacher will say, "Remember to breathe," but they don't teach you how to breathe,
yeah.
how to use your full lung capacity. So missing links.
And how, if there's anything you recommend apart from breathing to boost people's immune system, or to how to keep them on that high vibrational state so they don't feel that fear consciousness that is going around the world right now, what would you recommend for anyone listening?
Well, the opposite of fear is kind of other end of the spectrum is the love force, and we can go into appreciation, gratitude, and love. These are feelings or emotions that really boost the immune system. Worry and fear, on the other hand, suppress it and shut it down. It creates different body chemistry altogether. So by breathing deeply and feeling gratitude for your life, and again, studying a little bit more about how your body works and how the immune system works, it builds up your confidence and makes you feel that appreciation for how well engineered we are. And we did not engineer ourselves. There's a more greater conscious intelligence in the universe that designed human beings with these amazing functions. And most other creatures also have these healing capabilities and whatnot. And we go beyond with our mental capabilities and our power to imagine and create. But the reality of doing some practices, doing the breathing and movement that makes you feel your body, makes you feel good. And once you do that, you can feel an appreciation, gratitude. It's
Mm,
one of the highest frequencies we can have. So look around at what you can be thankful for in your life, and the fact that, hey, you're in Bali and everything is cool. You're on a beautiful tropical island. I'm on another tropical island in the South China Seas, and everything is cool. And I appreciate being alive, being here, being free, feeling good.
yeah,
So
amazing.
practice the yoga until you feel really good about yourself, health wise and confidence wise, and then spread the word around.
And
All
how
right.
can thank you so much for your wise words. Gratitude is definitely an emotion that I think many of us don't really understand how powerful it is. But I know for my own life, the more that I'm appreciative, the more that magnetizing energy, that force is attracted to us in all different realms. How can people connect with you? I know you've got your Ekadasi training coming up tomorrow. You've got the Yantra Yoga online. Obviously, everything's online now. But are you
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
any trainings online or anything like that?
There's a new Egyptian flow that's an hour long. That,
Ooh,
also on YouTube. So I have a lot of this and specific techniques for boosting the immune system. They're on YouTube. Anybody can watch them, download them, whatever.
yeah,
Part of the benefits of modern technology, other than spreading all the bad news, we can be putting out all the good news of how we can beat this whole thing, how we can empower ourselves and our own immune system and create a better life and a better collective life for humanity. We need to wake up and look at the light, stop looking at the darkness.
yeah.
Look at human potential, not look at human deficiencies and disease.
And what do you think in the next year, what would be your predictions of how this pandemic is gonna pan out? What do you think is gonna happen?
Well, the people in the pandemic are planning on keeping it going and making it worse with their, social isolation and mask wearing. So we need to go the opposite way. We need to learn and realize we are capable of being immune. We are empowered human beings who have a divinely processed and integrated autoimmune system. Just study the autoimmune system. It's miraculous what it can do. Do you know how an antibody works with a virus? It figures out the molecular structure of the virus and it makes a counter molecule that goes in and disassembles the molecules of the virus. Oh, this is amazing technology and it's built right into us and people don't know about it. We spend so much time studying technology but not studying ourselves.
Mm.
This is the mistake. So we need to learn about human being, about being human.
Thank you, David.
Okay? You're welcome. Nice talking to you. Nice to see you again. And we can do this some other time too. Eh?
I would love to, I'm going to be documenting you in your when you're 200, I hope.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah, I am on this mission to
Yeah.
demonstrate what yoga can do. I'm not preaching it. I'm living it and demonstrating it. And like I say, how come I still feel the same at age 72 as I did when I was 22? Where's this aging? And I had these 50 years of not being sick. Mind you, I've had dengue fever twice, but it only lasted a couple of days.
That's good.
I've had malaria once, and that also a couple of days, and I bounced back. So my immune system, you can still contact uh, bacteria that can invade you, etc. But then your immune system just picks it up and counteracts it. This is how it works. So
Yeah.
you don't start to feel sick, say, "Oh my God, I'm dying." You just hey, take a deep breath and empower yourself and come back to life. So,
Uh,
and again, with these diseases of the dengue fever, I mean, I live in Thailand where there's a lot of dengue fever, it happens in waves of it here and there. So I've had it twice, but that was 18 years ago.
mm,
And then I have an immunity to it. So it doesn't bother me anymore. I can't get it anymore.
mm,
So this is what happens. When you contact the virus, you develop an immunity to it, and then it's over. And the virus can change and mutate. Oh, now there's a new strain of this virus. Well, the only thing that can keep up with the changing virus is your immune system. The pharmaceutical corporations will take a year or two to figure it out. Your immune system will do it in 2 days. So contemplate that and work with it. And again, midsection breath empowers the autoimmune system. And when you're doing the breath, look at if you have fear and worry about it, or does it feel good to breathe? And can you visualize that you are empowering yourself?
mm,
So visualize, imagine
mm.
your potential, the possibilities. That's a big part of yoga. Mind over matter.
Love it. Thank you, David, for your wisdom,
Welcome.
for your dedication. Yeah, I honor you and the tradition and Octavio for connecting us and just the ripple effect that it's hopefully going to make on the world and through
Oh
our
yeah,
through the embodiment, you know.
yeah. Let's keep the light and the positive information and the possibilities and potential going out in full color.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll yeah, thank you guys for listening and I hope you found some juicy bits that you can connect with David and learn more about this powerful ancient healing science of self realization and enlightenment. Or what would you say that what would you say there is an end goal, or do you just say that the end goal is there's no end goal, it's continuous?
It's a continuous process like life, and there's no end to life either. And that's what you realize with yoga. That's self-realization.
Mm,
Consciousness goes on. Think of it as we're on this one little bubble of a planet, and look at the size of the universe. Trillions and trillions and trillions of stars, and they all have planets. So if you leave this planet, you can travel infinitely for eternity, exploring and whatnot with your consciousness. And
mm,
you can incarnate on any other planet if you want. This
Mm.
is the bigger picture of yoga that most people rarely get to, but this is the reality that I have learned, discovered, and I play with.
David's a
So
wizard. You're a wizard, aren't you, David?
I think we're going into the age of wizards. That's the other thing, is the pandemic, this whole thing is pushing us to evolve or die. So let's evolve.
Mm.
Forget the sickness. Let's evolve and grow into our power, our potential, and realize what quantum physics is saying, that the world is not fixed and solid. It's made of energy, which is following the patterns of our expectations. So keep your expectations in a positive place. Realize human potential, possibilities. The age of magic is what we're going into. This is part of the Aquarian age. The
Mm.
transition may seem a little bit hard, a little bit dark, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's a rainbow, actually.
Amen.
Amen and oh man, okay.
Namaste. Thank
Thanks
you so
for
much,
doing
David.
it.
Send you so much
Okay, it's been
love.
fun.
I
All
can't wait
right.
to come to Thailand and visit you again at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Or else I'll see you in Bali if it's still open to go there. It's harder to come here. Okay.
Bye,
Take
darling.
care.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to connect with us, my Instagram is @BriarRoots, @The Dharma Journey. Please feel free to send us your favorite episode, and we'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to reach and connect with me further, I offer weekly women circles every Sunday, also Ayurvedic healing programs, consultations. So all of my details are at the bottom. Thank you so much for listening. This is really a part of the Dharma Journey movement to bring us closer together, connection, community, collaboration, and really inspire one another on our path towards liberation. Thank you so much for listening. Have an incredible day. I hope.